He said she didn't belong at that company, didn't have the look, didn't have the tone, didn't have the kind of story they wanted sitting at the table with clients worth millions. But what he didn't know is that she'd spent her whole life walking through doors no one else even saw. See, Leah wasn't supposed to be there in the first place. Single black mother, corretora de imóveis in a white glass office downtown Dallas. A daughter with seizures and silent days. No family close, no husband, no cushion. Just her and Imani against the odds. But Leah never asked for favors, never played the victim. She just showed up every day, on time, smiling through the pain like it was part of the dress code, and maybe that's what bothered him most. Because in a place where everybody worshipped perfection, she was surviving with nothing but grit and grace. And Lord knows, that's dangerous. Her boss, Clayton Ridge, liked to call himself a mentor. But really, he was a man who liked his power quiet and his women quieter. He wore sarcasm like a suit, said things like, "We run a business, not a daycare," and smiled when she winced. Leah worked twice as hard to be called half as good. She closed 3 deals in March, highest in the office, but when the April bonuses came in, her name was missing. She asked about it once. Clayton leaned back in his chair and said, "Maybe if you spent less time playing nurse and more time networking." He didn't need to finish. The message was clear. Still, she stayed. Because private therapy sessions for Imani cost $180 a week. Because her daughter's favorite phrase was, "Mama, you're my safe place." Because dreams don't pay rent on their own. But the real crack didn't come from a missed bonus. It came one Tuesday morning, when Imani's body stiffened on the floor and Leah had to call 911 in the middle of braiding her hair. She rode in the ambulance. She held her baby girl's trembling hand. And later that morning she called in, breathless, apologizing. But when she walked into the office the next day, her badge didn't work. And through the glass doors, Clayton was already smiling. If you've ever had to work twice as hard just to be seen as enough, take a minute for yourself. Because this story might be more familiar than you'd like. Leah stood there, frozen, holding a lunchbox in one hand, a folder in the other. The badge light blinked red again, and again. She pressed it harder, as if effort might change the outcome. Behind the glass doors, the receptionist, Madison, looked up, paused, then looked back down like she didn't see anything, like Leah was invisible now, a ghost. And maybe, in that office, she always had been. A junior agent brushed past her, murmuring, "Sorry," like she was the one in the way. Then Clayton appeared, smooth as always, no tie, crisp shirt, that smug father-knows-best tone he used when he was about to humiliate someone. "Leah," he said, pulling the door open like he was doing her a favor. "I thought we talked about communication." She opened her mouth to speak, to explain, to apologize, to beg if she had to, but he cut her off. "We can't have agents disappearing during prime hours. Clients are already asking why your listings aren't moving." She whispered, "Imani had a seizure. I was in the ER all night. I called." "Oh, you called," he said with a smirk. "Right. I guess I missed that personal voicemail while keeping this business afloat." A few co-workers glanced over. No one spoke. He stepped closer, lowered his voice just enough for her to hear. "We're not a charity, Leah." That one hit. Hard. And then he said it. The thing that would echo in her head for days. "You've been inconsistent, emotional, unavailable." He crossed his arms. "And frankly, I don't think this is the right environment for you anymore." There it was. No meeting, no HR, just a hallway and humiliation. "You're firing me." "I'm freeing you," he said, as if it were some noble gesture. "But my listings, my commission, I just signed a client." He raised a hand. "They've been reassigned." Then he nodded to security. "Escort Ms. Taylor out, please." Leah stood there, blinking, heart pounding. She thought of Imani's tiny arms wrapped around her waist that morning, the way she said, "Don't go to work, Mama. Just stay today." She thought she was building something for her daughter, a future. Now, She had nothing but the keys to a car she couldn't afford and a child depending on her. But as she walked out the building, shoulders back, tears refusing to fall, someone whispered her name. It came from the janitor's closet. A quiet voice, a familiar face. An older woman named Darlene, the cleaning lady with kind eyes and no time for nonsense. She leaned out and said, "Don't cry, baby. That man's got snakes in his pocket." But snakes shed. Then she handed Leah a folded piece of paper, a name, a number, a reason to hope. But it wasn't what was on the paper that broke Leah's breath. It was what Darlene said next. "He did the same thing to another girl." Leah sat in her car for a long time, hands trembling on the steering wheel. Phone buzzing with silence, eyes locked on the folded piece of paper in her lap. She hadn't opened it yet, wasn't ready. Still smelled like Clorox wipes and lemon cleaner from Darlene's apron. The words echoed, "He did the same thing to another girl." But who? Leah had worked at Ridge Realty for 4 years. She knew every woman who passed through that place, knew who got promoted, who got ignored, who vanished without a word. Some whispered it was burnout, others said family stuff. But maybe it wasn't them who broke, maybe they were pushed. She finally opened the note. It said, "Call Jessica, don't say my name, 469-222-8149. That was it. No last name, no context, just a thread. And when you're drowning, you'll grab any thread that floats. Leah dialed. It rang once, twice. Then a voice answered, cautious, dry. "Hello? Hi, I was given your number by someone at Ridge Realty." A pause. Then the voice changed. "Is this about Clayton?" That name. That name made Leah's throat tighten like it had its own memory. "Yes." Another pause, deeper this time, like something painful was being unburied on the other side. "Who are you?" "I'm Leah. I just got fired." She didn't expect what came next. Jessica exhaled, and it wasn't relief. It was recognition. "Let me guess," she said. "You had to leave for a personal emergency, something about a child, and when you came back, your badge didn't work." Leah's chest burned. "How did you—" "He's been doing it for years," Jessica said, "to women like us, women with kids, women who can't afford to fight back." There it was. The pattern, the playbook, discredit, discard, replace. "And nobody stopped him?" Leah whispered. Jessica let out a bitter laugh. "We tried. HR's just his golf buddies with clipboards. They buried everything." Leah felt her stomach twist. Jessica continued, softer this time. "But I kept receipts, emails, memos, the kind of stuff that makes men like him sweat." Leah gripped the phone. "What do I do?" "You do what I didn't," Jessica said. "You speak up." Loud. That night, Leah couldn't sleep. She watched Imani breathing, safe under her blanket. She brushed the curls from her baby's forehead and thought, if I stay silent, I teach her that silence is survival. But silence never saved anybody. Not really. So the next morning, Leah did something she never thought she'd do. She opened her laptop. She searched workplace discrimination, Texas legal aid, and right there in her inbox was an unread message from a client she used to manage. Subject line, "Hey Leah, are you okay? I tried calling Ridge, but they said you left." She stared at the email, just stared, because it wasn't just a client, it was Mrs. Davenport, an older woman Leah had helped last fall. Widow, downsizing, nervous about moving out of the only house she'd ever known. Leah spent weeks with her, held her hand at closing, brought coffee to her inspection, helped her find a new apartment that allowed pets and had a ramp for her knees. They'd even prayed together once, in the parking lot. And now, months later, here was this woman, reaching out, checking in. Like Leah mattered. She replied, told her the truth, or most of it, that her time at Ridge ended abruptly, that she was spending time with her daughter, that she appreciated the concern more than she could say. 2 hours later, the phone rang. "Leah?" Mrs. Davenport said, her voice like honey on warm bread. "What on earth happened?" Leah hesitated. "I had to step away for family reasons, and when I returned," she let the silence fill in the rest. "Oh, child." I knew something was off. I called that man, what's his name, Clayton. I told him I needed you to help my sister find her new condo. You know what he said? Leah already knew. He said you were no longer with the company. Mrs. Davenport continued, and that he would be happy to assist. I told him no thank you and hung up. A small, quiet spark flickered in Leah's chest. She didn't even know people like Mrs. Davenport could hang up on men like Clayton. But maybe dignity don't always shout. Sometimes it whispers no and walks away. That afternoon, she received 3 more emails, all from clients she had handled personally, all saying the same thing. We asked for you. They told us you left. Is everything okay? By the end of the day, the truth was clear. They didn't want Ridge. They wanted her. And something even clearer. Clayton didn't fire her because she was failing. He fired her because she wasn't, because she made them feel safe, because she had something he'd never have, trust. But knowing the truth and proving it, that's a different mountain. That evening, Imani had a meltdown, the kind that starts as a whimper and builds into full-body chaos. She didn't want food, or cartoons, or music. Leah held her on the bathroom floor for an hour, whispering, "Mama's here, baby, you're safe, you're safe." When it passed, Imani looked up, her cheeks red, her words few, but what she said was enough. "You're my hero." Leah closed her eyes and held on tight, because no matter what happened next, she had a reason to keep fighting. And the next morning she got a text from Jessica. It was a photo of an old email thread between Jessica and HR, and a document Leah was never supposed to see. It was grainy, low-res, but Leah recognized the logo in the corner, Ridge Realty Internal Memo, dated a year before she was fired. Subject, Agent Absentee Trends, Q4. Her eyes scanned fast, heart thudding. There it was, a chart, listing names, dates, time off taken, reasons, and right next to Jessica's name, a bold red note, single mom, child, W medical needs. Pattern developing, monitor for instability. Instability, like parenting a sick child was a symptom, like showing up tired meant you were broken. Leah scrolled further. There was a section marked retention concerns. She read it once, then again. The words felt like poison. Avoid promoting high liability employees, e.g. caregivers, single income households, higher risk of unavailability, low client conversion, and performance fatigue. High liability. That's what they called women like her. Women who carried the weight of 2 lives, who left meetings early to rush to the ER, who took calls from therapists during lunch breaks, who kept everything from falling apart, and then got punished when they cracked. She wanted to throw the phone. Instead, she saved the image. Then she called Jessica. "What is this?" "The reason I left," Jessica said, "and the reason you can fight." Leah shook her head. "But it's just a photo." Jessica replied, "Not anymore. I still have the original and others." And then she said something that would change the course of Leah's life. "There's a labor attorney who took my call when no one else would. She didn't get me justice, but maybe she can get you something better." Leah wrote the name down. She didn't have money for lawyers, but she had fire now, and fire burns through doors. She dialed the number, and for the first time in weeks, someone picked up and listened. Not for 30 seconds, not with rehearsed sympathy. She listened like Leah was real, like her story mattered. And when Leah told her everything, from the therapy sessions to the badge that stopped blinking, the woman on the phone said, "Ms. Taylor, you may have a case." It was like breathing after drowning, but then came the cost. Filing a complaint meant exposure. Clayton wouldn't stay quiet. The company would fight back. They'd call her unstable, emotional, difficult. They'd twist everything. She'd be risking everything, her savings, her reputation, her peace. She looked at Imani, napping, peaceful after a hard day, and she thought, if I stay quiet, he keeps winning. She didn't know how, but she knew she had to move. That night, she pulled out the one thing she had left from Ridge Realty, her drawer key. She used it to unlock a box under her bed, filled with thank you notes, client feedback, and a worn folder marked Imani's medical documentation, proof for work. The same papers she'd submitted to HR, the ones they said never arrived. But as she sifted through them, she found something else. A sticky note. It was from Madison, the receptionist. Just 3 words. I saw everything. Madison had always been quiet, polite, efficient. Invisible in the way young black women are taught to be in offices run by men like Clayton Ridge. She was the one who buzzed visitors in, brought the coffee tray to meetings, printed agendas without her name ever appearing on them. But she saw everything. Every smirk, every backhanded comment, every time Leah walked in late with eyes rimmed red. And Clayton marked her tardy, but said nothing when the junior agents came in hungover. And now, here she was in Leah's inbox with 3 words that cracked open the silence. I saw everything. Leah stared at the message for a long time. Then she replied, Madison, I don't know what this means, but I need help, please. She didn't expect a response, but one came 10 minutes later. He asked me to delete an email once. From you, about your daughter's therapy schedule. Leah blinked. That email was supposed to be on file. She had sent it weeks before her termination, outlining Imani's upcoming appointments, asking for schedule accommodations. HR claimed they never received it, but now Madison was saying it existed and that Clayton had buried it. The next message came quickly. I forwarded a copy to myself. I still have it. That changed everything. Leah called Jessica, told her about Madison, the email, the note. Jessica's voice got tight. You're building a pattern, she said. This isn't just your story anymore. It's a thread. A thread, Jessica explained. When one woman speaks up, they call it emotional, isolated, a bad fit. But when 3 women say the same thing, that's a system. That's a case. Leah looked down at the folder in her lap. Inside, a crayon drawing Imani had made at therapy. 2 stick figures, one taller, one smaller, holding hands in front of a house with a heart on the door. She had written in crooked, uncertain letters, Me and Mama. Home is safe. That night, Leah couldn't sleep, not from fear this time, but from purpose. She drafted an email, long, honest, brave, attached the medical files, the client messages, the document from Jessica, Madison's saved email, and she hit send to her new attorney. Subject line, I'm ready to file. The next morning she got a reply, but it wasn't from her lawyer. It was from a former client. Not just any client, a high-profile developer. The kind of man Ridge Realty would sell their own mothers to keep happy. He said, Leah, I just found out you're no longer with Ridge. That's unacceptable. Call me. I'm ready to pull all my listings if you're not involved. She read it twice. Then a third time. Then her phone buzzed again. This time, a name she never expected to see on her screen. Clayton Ridge. The name pulsed on her phone screen like a warning. Clayton Ridge. She didn't answer. She couldn't. Her palms were sweating. Her heart racing, not from fear but from memory. Because power, even fake power, leaves a bruise. He called again, and again. Then came the voicemail. She hesitated, but pressed play. His voice was calm, too calm. The same tone he used in meetings, when cornering someone politely. Leah, hey, just wanted to touch base. I heard you've been speaking with former clients, and possibly a few others from the office. A pause, a long one. Listen. No hard feelings about how things ended. I'm sure emotions were high. Let's be professional. I'd prefer we avoid any unnecessary escalation. Unnecessary escalation. That's what he called the truth now. He went on. You have a child. You need stability. Let's not make this bigger than it has to be. Maybe we could meet, talk things through, privately. Leah's fingers tightened around the phone. There it was again. That mask of concern, stretched over a threat. She deleted the voicemail. She didn't need to hear his voice anymore. Instead, she opened the email from the developer, Mr. Halloran, the one threatening to pull all his listings from Ridge unless she was reinstated. She replied with a short message. I'm no longer with Ridge, but I'll be opening my own license soon. If you'd like to stay in touch, I'd be honored. Not 10 minutes later, he wrote back, When you're ready, I'm bringing my portfolio with you. Leah stared at the screen, and for the first time since losing her badge, She felt it, the shift. Clayton may have owned the building, but Leah, she carried the trust, and trust is heavier than power, because people follow it. That afternoon her attorney called. The voice was brisk, warm, focused. "Leah, we've reviewed everything. We're filing under wrongful termination with evidence of discrimination, breach of ADA accommodation protocol, and retaliatory behavior. If this goes public, Ridge Realty could face serious damage." But then she said something else. "We'll also be sending a cease and desist letter today. From this point forward, Mr. Ridge cannot contact you directly." Leah felt her shoulders drop. No more voicemails, no more control, just silence, but good silence, the kind that meant a new chapter was beginning. She closed her laptop and turned to see Imani on the floor, crayons scattered, drawing something new. "Mama," she said, holding it up. It was a picture of a woman, a little taller this time. She was standing at a door, but this time the door wasn't closed, it was wide open, and in the corner her tiny daughter had drawn a single key. That night, Leah got a text from Madison, no words, just a photo, of a handwritten list of names, all women, all former employees, and at the bottom in red ink, voluntary resignations, keep quiet. Leah zoomed in on the photo. The paper was old, the edges curled, the handwriting uneven, but the ink was clear. At the top, in neat cursive, departures 2019 to 2024. But these weren't just exits, they were erasures. Each line carried a name and a silent goodbye. Tanya M., 3 missed days, family emergency. Bianca R., emotional outburst noted in HR file. Sandra L., poor culture fit after pregnancy disclosure. Jessica T., reclassified as voluntary departure. Leah Taylor, pattern of unavailability. Leah's breath caught. They rewrote her ending before she even left. Madison added a message under the photo. "I wasn't supposed to see this, but they printed it during a team shuffle. I kept a copy." Another message came right after. "I'm ready to talk. On the record." It hit Leah like sunlight through a storm. This wasn't about revenge. It was about restoration, and Madison, quiet little Madison at the front desk, had just stepped forward with the first light. She called Jessica, told her everything, the list, the willingness to testify. Jessica's voice cracked. "I thought I was crazy," she whispered. "I thought maybe I was too emotional, but this proves it. We weren't weak, we were targeted." Leah wiped her eyes. No more being quiet. The next day, her attorney arranged a remote meeting with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, formal, recorded, serious. Leah sat at her dining table in a blazer that no longer fit right, with Imani coloring beside her. She told them about her termination, about the deleted emails, about the memo calling her a high liability, and when she finished, the lead investigator leaned forward and said, "Ms. Taylor, you're not the first complaint, but you may be the one who tips the scale." Then came the question, "Do you have others willing to corroborate your experience?" Leah nodded. "I do now." She sent over Jessica's file, Madison's email, the client messages, the list, and that's when the investigator smiled, not out of joy, but certainty. "This company is going to wish they'd treated you with the dignity you deserved." That night, Leah was folding Imani's laundry when the phone buzzed again. It was a number she didn't recognize, but the voice that came through, familiar, nervous, trembling. "Hi, is this Leah? You don't know me, but my name is Tasha. I used to work at Ridge. Jessica gave me your number." Leah froze. Another one. Tasha exhaled. "I don't want money. I just want someone to know what he did. I've been quiet for too long." Leah sat down and just listened to a story full of humiliation, medical notes ignored, meetings skipped over her, a miscarriage dismissed as personal time, and a resignation that was anything but voluntary. When the call ended, Leah sat there, surrounded by tiny socks, crumpled pajamas, and a quiet storm building in her chest. She wasn't alone. She'd never been alone. She was just the one who stayed long enough to name it. But that night, she noticed something strange. Her old Ridge Realty inbox, the one she thought was deactivated, suddenly popped up with a new login request. Same IP, same city, and the name attached to the login attempt wasn't hers. Leah stared at the notification. Unusual login attempt on inactive account, Ridge Realty internal portal. Device, Office desktop. IP, Dallas, TX. Username, C. Ridge. Clayton. Trying to get into her inbox, into the archives she thought were gone, into the emails he told HR she never sent, into the records Madison swore she saw. The timing wasn't a coincidence. She had gone public with her story to the EEOC just 2 days ago. Her clients were walking away from Ridge, and now Clayton was scrambling to rewrite history again. But this time, Leah had receipts. She took screenshots, saved everything. She sent them to her attorney, who replied within minutes, "Do not engage. He's digging. That's a good sign for us. Shows fear." Then another message followed. "We're filing an official request to freeze digital records. Any tampering from here out becomes obstruction." It wasn't just about proving he lied anymore. It was about proving he knew he lied. She paced the kitchen, heart racing, thoughts spinning. Outside, the late evening sun melted into amber. Imani was humming on the floor, soft, off-key, at peace. Leah wanted to cry, but not from sadness, from clarity. For years, she had been shrinking herself to survive, making herself small enough to fit inside rooms that were never built for women like her. But now, she was done fitting. The next morning, Leah opened her own real estate license application. She had the experience, the reputation, the clients ready to walk with her. She didn't need Ridge Realty. She just needed a name that meant something, that stood for what she survived, that stood for what she was building for Imani. And as if on cue, Imani came to her with a drawing. This time it wasn't a house, it was a key, golden, crooked, glowing under crayon light. Above it, Imani had written in big, shaky letters, "Mama's door." Leah smiled. Keys without doors. That's what she'd name her agency, because she knew now she'd been carrying the key all along, not to get back inside Ridge, but to build something better. The filings went through the same day, and the attorney sent one final message before signing off. "Buckle up. He's going to make a mess before this is over." She was right. The next morning, Leah woke to 3 missed calls from unknown numbers, and a screenshot from Jessica, a post from Ridge Realty's official Instagram account. "We are saddened by the misinformation being spread by a former employee. Ridge remains committed to excellence, diversity, and professionalism." Beneath it, a photo, an old company event, Clayton smiling. And Leah, cropped almost out of frame, just her hand, holding Imani. They tried to erase her, but they didn't crop carefully enough, because even in that cold, filtered photo, her hand was still there. Dark skin, curled fingers, a mother's grip wrapped around a child's wrist, a symbol, a witness, proof. And that's the thing about power. When it's real, it leaves a trace you can't delete. Jessica texted under the screenshot. "They're rattled. That post is damage control." Leah stared at the image, her hand barely visible, Imani's sleeve. It hurt to look at, not just because of the lie, but because she remembered that exact moment. It was a charity gala Ridge hosted for publicity, a family-friendly event where Clayton insisted she bring Imani for the cameras. Behind the smiles, her daughter had a quiet meltdown in the corner. Clayton pulled her aside and said, "Can you control your child? This isn't a daycare." That was the night Leah realized the truth. They never celebrated her being a mother. They just tolerated it until it cost them something. And now, they were using the same child to cover their tracks. Leah's lawyer didn't hesitate. She filed an immediate motion claiming retaliation and image misuse. The investigator at the EEOC responded with urgency. "They just handed us a gift. That photo proves employment, proves family status, and proves they're watching." But then, something unexpected happened. Comments. The Instagram post began to flood, not with praise, but with truth. One by one, women who had been silent began to speak. I worked there. I know what they did. Clayton told me to wear lipstick if I wanted to be taken seriously. I left after my miscarriage. They called it drama. They said my child's disability made me unreliable. Leah was the only reason I stayed as long as I did. Bring her back or lose our business. Within hours, Ridge disabled comments. Too late. The tide was rising, and in that wave was a woman named Brenda, an older black woman, retired. Known in Dallas circles as the matriarch of one of the city's largest real estate networks. She posted publicly on LinkedIn, "Leah Taylor helped my sister sell her home when no one else would. If Ridge doesn't make it right, I'll make sure every broker in our circle knows what kind of firm they really are." Leah read it once, then again. She thought of all the doors she had opened for others, the way she smiled through slurs, brushed off condescension, stayed late while her daughter waited, and now, without even stepping into that building, she was making it shake. But victory comes slow, and Ridge wasn't done. That night her phone buzzed again. This time, it was a blocked number. She let it go to voicemail, and when she listened, it wasn't Clayton's voice. It was a woman's, nervous, unsteady, crying. "Leah, please, I can't do this anymore. He's blaming me for everything. I didn't know what he was doing to you. I just did what he said." It was Madison, and she ended with words Leah never expected to hear. "There's something in the locked drawer in his office. I'll get it. I just need time. Please don't give up." The message haunted her. "There's something in the locked drawer." Leah knew that drawer, Clayton's bottom right cabinet. Always locked, always off limits. She remembered once needing a form, a client registration doc, and him snapping, "That drawer's for official eyes only. Stay in your lane." She'd stayed in her lane that day. But now, the whole road was crumbling. And Madison was crossing lines to dig out the truth. The next 24 hours were a blur. No calls, no texts, just waiting. A kind of silence that wraps around your lungs and makes breathing feel like betrayal. Leah tried to focus, helped Imani sort her puzzle pieces, cooked rice and beans with too much salt, sat with her laptop open, staring at a blank mission statement doc for her new business. But her mind kept circling that drawer. What could be in it? Contracts? Emails? The HR complaints Jessica swore were buried? By the next morning, she had almost convinced herself Madison had backed out until she got the photo. Low light, blurry, taken in secret. Inside the drawer, a red accordion folder with a sticky note that read, "Flagged HR interference," and behind it, a list, typed, cold, "Employee attrition tracking, unstable assets, internal only." Leah's name was there. So was Jessica's. So was Tasha's. And beneath each name, a section labeled Justification Narrative. They weren't just tracking their exits. They were writing their stories for them. Jessica's said, "Emotional volatility due to family obligations, long-term risk." Leah's, "Chronic scheduling conflicts, childcare therapy, position not suited for long-term productivity, recommend release before Q3 to minimize internal disruption." It was dated 2 weeks before her last day. They planned it, filed it, executed it like strategy. It wasn't a firing, it was a cleansing. Madison's final message came 5 minutes later. "I took scans, sent to your attorney. I'm leaving Ridge, I'm done." Leah sat down, hard. It was more than she expected, more than she dared hope. Now it wasn't just their word against hers. Now it was evidence. Her attorney called within the hour, voice sharper than usual. "This is what we needed, Leah. We're expanding the claim. Hostile workplace, premeditated termination, and possible ADA violations. Then something even heavier. We're bringing this to a state labor board and the press." Leah's hands trembled. The press. She hadn't planned for all that. She didn't want fame. She wanted her name back. Her dignity, a place to work where being a mother wasn't treated like a weakness. But her attorney reminded her, when the fire's this big, you don't just close the door, you raise the alarm. Leah sat with that truth, and then something shifted inside her, something that had been waiting, watching, rising. She got up, went to the kitchen, pulled out a folder from the back of the cabinet, one she hadn't touched in years, her old business cards. The first set she printed when she dreamed of working for herself. They were faded now, corners bent, but the name still shone, Leah Taylor Realty. Below it, a tagline she almost forgot. She wrote, "Helping you find more than a house, helping you find home." And at that moment, her phone lit up again. It wasn't Clayton. It wasn't Madison. It was a producer from a local news station. "Ms. Taylor, we heard about the Ridge case. We're doing a feature on workplace discrimination and motherhood. Would you be willing to share your story on air?" For a long time, Leah didn't answer. The cursor blinked on the text from the producer. Inviting, pressing, dangerous. She wasn't sure what scared her more, being heard or being seen. Because when a black woman raises her voice in public, they don't just listen. They measure, they dissect, they twist. But then she looked at Imani, sleeping on the couch, wrapped in the same blanket she'd clutched in every ER visit, every long night. And she remembered what her daughter said after that last meltdown, "You're my hero. Heroes don't whisper." So she texted back, "Yes, I'll speak." 2 days later, she sat under bright studio lights, hair pressed, hands folded, heart pounding loud enough to hear through the mic. The host was kind but formal, a woman herself, maybe a mother too. She leaned in gently and said, "Ms. Taylor, thank you for being here. Can you tell us why you chose to come forward?" Leah breathed in slow. "My name is Leah Taylor. I'm a single mother, a licensed realtor, and until recently I worked at Ridge Realty in Dallas." She paused, swallowed. "Last month, I was terminated after taking time to bring my daughter to a medical therapy session. She has a neurological disability. She depends on me." The host nodded, eyes soft. "And what happened after that?" Leah held back tears. "They erased me. Not just from the company, but from the story. They told clients I left on my own. They deleted documents, they manipulated HR, but I kept records, I kept proof. And now, I'm not staying silent." She glanced at the camera, not out of pride, but out of responsibility. "There are other women, some who came before me, some still inside that building. They've been dismissed, humiliated, discarded, and I want to say this directly to them." Her voice cracked, but didn't break. "You are not a burden. You are not unstable. You are not less than because you love your child." The host was silent, letting the moment sit. Then, "And what would you say to your former employer?" Leah looked down, then up, then straight ahead. "Thank you for letting me go, because I finally remembered who I am." The segment aired that evening. By morning, her inbox was full, clients, women, mothers, strangers, all saying the same thing. "Thank you for speaking. Me too. You gave me language for what happened to me." But that wasn't all. A well-known disability advocacy group reached out. "We'd like to feature your story, and if you're open to it, we have a grant that supports working mothers starting businesses." Leah froze. Business. Her own. A second chance that didn't come from someone else's approval. And then another message from Brenda, the matriarch of the real estate network. "I saw the interview. We need more women like you. Would you like to co-list a project with us?" Leah stared at the screen, not crying, not trembling, just knowing that the door had opened, not because someone let her in, but because she had the key. That evening she picked Imani up from therapy. Her daughter ran to her, not with noise but with light in her eyes. "Did you win today, Mama?" Leah knelt, held her close and whispered, "We're winning, baby. One door at a time." But as she buckled Imani into the car, her phone buzzed again. A message from her attorney. Subject line, "They've offered a settlement." The offer came with numbers, big ones, more than Leah had seen in her account, ever, enough to clear the bills, fix the car, secure Imani's therapy for years, and it came wrapped in smooth legal language. "This offer is made in the spirit of resolution, with no admission of wrongdoing, contingent upon the signing of a confidentiality and non-disparagement agreement." In other words, take the money. but never speak again. Not about Ridge, not about Clayton, not even about herself. Her attorney's voice was calm. It's generous, they're scared, that's why it's so high. But generous to whom? Because that check came with a cost. Her story, her truth, her name. It meant walking away with a smile, while the next Leah walked in and got torn down the same way. She sat in silence, staring at the screen, heart pounding. Her attorney asked gently, "Do you want time to think?" Leah didn't answer. Instead, she stood, walked to the back closet, pulled down a small cardboard box marked Imani First Year. Inside was a folded paper, one of Imani's earliest drawings, just a circle and two stick legs. It had no arms, no mouth, just eyes, wide and alone. Leah remembered the therapist saying, "This is how she sees herself when you're not there." She closed her eyes, and then she knew. She called her lawyer back, voice steady, unshaken. "I'm not signing." Silence. "You sure?" the attorney asked. "You're walking away from a lot." "No," Leah said. "I'm walking towards something. Because silence buys comfort, but truth builds change." She sent an email to her clients that night, past and present, explaining that she was now the proud founder of Keys Without Doors Realty. Her mission, to help women, especially mothers, especially survivors, find homes that see them, not just houses, homes. And one by one, they responded, "You're who I want to work with. Finally, someone who gets it. I'm with you, Leah." And but as the momentum grew, so did the resistance. Clayton's lawyers sent a second letter, harsher, threatening legal action for defamation if she continued speaking publicly. They attached screenshots from her LinkedIn, her interview clip, even a tweet Jessica had posted with the hashtag "Doors Don't Close Themselves." The message was clear: back down, or we'll bury you. Leah forwarded it to her attorney. Minutes later, the reply came, "Let them come. We're filing a formal suit, full discovery. If they want a courtroom, we'll give them one." That night, Leah walked to Imani's bedroom, watched her daughter sleeping, arms sprawled, lips parted, safe, and she whispered to herself, "No more silence. Not now. Not ever again." But just as she turned out the hallway light, her phone buzzed. A message from a number she didn't recognize. 5 words. "There's more, much more. Call me." Sender, Darlene, the cleaning woman from Ridge, the one who gave her the very first clue. Leah's hand shook as she hit call. The line rang once, twice. Then a quiet voice answered, "You finally ready to know how deep it goes, baby?" Darlene, the same woman who whispered the first warning, the one who handed her that folded paper weeks ago, the one nobody noticed, but who saw everything. Leah sat down. "I'm ready." Darlene didn't ask questions. She just told the truth. "I've been cleaning that office for 8 years. I know which drawers stick, which doors click when they lock. I know who stays late and who thinks they're invisible after 6 p.m. She paused, then lowered her voice. "And I know what he hides." Leah's breath caught. "Clayton?" "Oh yeah, him. And his little circle. They think just 'cause I wear rubber gloves I ain't got eyes. But I saw what he did to you. To that other girl, too. The one who left crying 2 years back." "Jessica," Leah whispered. Darlene continued. "I kept copies, baby. I got screenshots. Shredded paper I fished from the bin. Client notes with your name crossed out and reassigned to male rep written on top. I got it all." Leah pressed the phone closer to her ear, as if the truth could sink deeper that way. "Why did you keep it?" Darlene exhaled, long, tired. "Because I seen too many of y'all come and go. Smart, brave, tired. And I knew one day, one of y'all was going to stay long enough to bring it all down." Her voice softened. "And I said to myself, if she stays, I'm going to put the bricks in her hand." Leah closed her eyes, let the silence sit. Darlene had been waiting, watching, keeping. "Where is it?" Leah asked. There was a rustle, then a knock, in her background. Her front door. She walked over, peered through the peephole. A woman stood there, short and strong, with a brown tote bag slung over one shoulder. Darlene. She'd never seen her outside that building. Leah opened the door slowly. I figured it was time, Darlene said, stepping inside. I don't trust phones for the good stuff. She placed the bag on Leah's dining table, opened it. Inside, envelopes, flash drives, a small voice recorder, a folded Ridge Realty visitor badge, and right on top, a crumpled post-it, barely legible. If anything happens to me, give this to Leah. Leah stared at it. That from Madison? Darlene nodded. She left it in my cart 2 nights ago. Quit the next morning. Leah's hands trembled as she opened the first envelope. Inside, a printed transcript of a recorded meeting. Clayton's voice. Cold, sharp, arrogant. If she tries anything, we bury her with paperwork. Drag it out. She can't afford to fight. Another voice responded. Male. Nervous. But she has a disabled kid. Won't that look bad? Clayton laughed. That's the beauty of it. People think moms are emotional. Nobody takes them seriously. Not in court, not in business. The paper slid from Leah's hands. She turned to Darlene, eyes wide. This is everything. Darlene nodded. It's yours now, baby. But you be careful. Men like him don't go down quiet. Leah swallowed hard, but she wasn't afraid. She was ready. She handed Darlene a card, crisp, new, fresh from her first box of business printouts. Leah Taylor, broker, Keys Without Doors Realty founder, mother, advocate. Darlene smiled. I'll be your first client. Leah blinked. You're buying? No, Darlene said, eyes shining. I'm retiring, and I want someone like you to help me find a little porch to rest these bones on. They laughed, not loudly but deeply, the kind of laugh that comes after too many years without one. But as Darlene stepped out into the night, Leah's phone lit up. This time it wasn't a threat. It was a notification from the Labor Board. Investigation formally opened, Ridge Realty under review. It didn't happen all at once. Justice rarely does. It moves slow, like honey on a cold spoon, like sunlight finding its way through a dusty window. But it moves. And once it starts, it don't stop for nobody. The investigation went public the next month. Ridge Realty tried to spin it, of course. They called it a misunderstanding, blamed internal miscommunication, said they take all claims seriously. But serious don't hide documents, serious don't delete emails, and serious sure as hell don't call a mother's love a liability. The Labor Board subpoenaed the memos. The state reviewed the internal logs. Darlene's folder, the photos, the recordings, the post-its, became a roadmap to every lie they'd buried. Clayton Ridge? He resigned 3 weeks in, tried to frame it as retirement. But we know better. The firm lost 3 major accounts. Clients walked, brokers followed. Turns out, when you build your business on silence and fear, the whole thing cracks when a woman speaks. And Leah Taylor, she didn't just speak, she built. Keys Without Doors. Realty launched with 5 listings. By the end of the year, she had 23, 3 single mums on her team, 1 therapy dog in the office for Imani, who sometimes came in after school and sat drawing floor plans at the desk beside her mama. Her first company slogan, "We don't sell homes, we open them." Brenda brought her in on bigger projects. Jessica started a support group for working mums in corporate. Madison got a new job, better pay, real respect, and now runs Leah's front desk part-time. And Darlene, she found her porch, and every now and then she sends Leah a photo of her feet up with the caption, "You gave me rest, baby, now you go give 'em hell." The story made the local news, then the national ones, then the speaking panels. But Leah never told it for the spotlight. She told it so the next woman would know. You are not disposable, you are not weak, and you are not alone. She used to think Clayton held all the keys, but in the end, he only held doors. She carried the courage, and that unlocks everything. So if you're listening to this right now, while folding clothes or driving home from a long day, or sitting in a parked car trying not to cry, let me say this to you, softly but clearly. You are not the mess they said you were. You are not the problem they blamed. You are the key, and the world's been waiting for you to turn it. If this story reminded you of your own, let it breathe in the comments. Because sometimes, my dear, the door ain't locked. We just need the right key and a little bit of courage to turn.